Well, what made me pick up guitar is having a musician in my family, in large part. My dad was very musical. When I was in like high school, a friend of mine and I were sitting in math class, and he's like, I've always wanted to play bass. And I was like, I've always wanted to play guitar. My mom was cool enough to get me like this discount PV guitar, and we started a band that we never played in, we never rehearsed. And then later, you know, I started playing guitar on my own. The biggest influences on guitar and songwriting, I would say hands down, would be firstly Radiohead. Kid A blew open my understanding of what music could be. Before then I was mostly listening to pop bands of various sorts, and for me that album, it blew open what you could do with a song, or the emotional textures you could put on a song. And the depth of emotion that you could have, and just like the weirdness of it. I listened to that album and I was like, I don't know how they made these sounds. And I pretty much, with every song I ever do, I try to do that. I try to put something in it that you're like, what is that? Where did that come from? And Tool was a big influence for me for lyricism. Lateralis, the album Lateralis, I listened to that. You listen to that and you have this historically hard rock metal band, and yet the lyrics were really sensitive, poetic, sentimental, spiritual lyrics. And that really affected me, and I feel like from then on I really thought of lyrics as a crucial element of a song in telling a story and pulling you into that character. And a guitar amp, as far as tone goes, I look for warmth and like a certain kind of crunch. Like, to me, the distortion of an amp is what defines the sound of the amp. That's what you look for in an amp, is the type of crunch it has or the distortion it has. And it sort of defines your sound. I mean, it kind of defines what rock and roll is like the electric guitar sound. So I look for, like, I think of it as like a grain in the distortion. Like some amps have a really fine grain, and that applies to like hard rock and metal. But I look for like this kind of thick grain. Like, I think of it as like chunks of grain. And the best word I have for it is like a crunch. So I use this Vox AC30 hand-wired, and the reason I like it is because, like I mentioned about the crunch, like when I looked for my first tube amp, I was like, you know, I was trying all sorts of different amps, and when I played the Vox, I was like, that's it. That's exactly the crunch that I want. And it's got that warmth, and people, like, I call it a sparkle. And I don't know, people always say Vox has a chime. I don't know what a chime is. I don't know what they're talking about, but I guess maybe it's the sparkle for me. It just has like a character to it. It's not just the translation of the sound of the guitar out into a speaker. There's something else added that I love. I use, for my guitar, I use the top boost channel, and I put it into the low. It's got, you know, these two inputs. I use the low input because I'm using humbuckers. And for the mini log, I use the normal channel on the high input, which I love that I have two inputs, so then I don't have to put the keyboard through the PA because I can control my sound better. The best feature about this hand-wired AC30 is the bypass switch. I can skip the tone controls or the tone circuits and the master volume circuit, which expands this tonal spectrum. So the guy I take my guitar to was like, the purest tone you're going to get is if you go directly from your strings or your pickups right to the speaker. You know, cut out all the middle stuff. So that's what I love about this bypass switch, is you're getting so much fuller tone, and that's why on my guitar here it has this push-pull knob. And I have it always out because this push-pull knob bypasses all these tonal circuits. So it just goes straight from this pickup to the output, and then it goes straight from you know, this input into the speaker. So I'm getting a better tone. And it has a 30 watt to 15 watts, which is great at live shows, because a lot of times they're like, you're playing too loud. So I cut it down to 15 watt, and I'm still getting the same response from the amp that I would compared to if I was playing 30 watt and then had to cut the volume down halfway. I wouldn't be getting the same response.